I've been taking a look at a lot of superhero movies lately, so I want to take a step back a bit. Instead, let's take a look at a movie that's divided people so much in the last few years. No, not that one. Not that one either. Ha, there we go. It has been nearly a decade since I've watched this film, so to revisit it so long after is going to be an experience. To say I'm excited is an understatement. It's time to find out whether this movie was a product of its revolutionary 3D technology of its time, or if it told a genuine story regardless of the visual effects. Both. Avatar in a way is kind of becoming a joke in the movie fan community, and I can kind of understand it. The movie came out in 2009 and there are as many sequels as we have fingers on our hands that have been greenlit that always get pushed back year after year. It almost feels like we'll get Sam Raimi Spider-Man 4 before Avatar 5. Don't get me wrong, I have faith in James Cameron because he's James fucking Cameron, but even I think it's a bit of a weird move. You'd think they'd want to capitalize on the film's fame and fortune because it was only the most successful movie ever for about 10 years up until Endgame came around and released a sequel sooner. But hey, what do I know? James Cameron is probably finding a way to make these sequels in virtual reality where the audience members are actually in Pandora interacting with the characters so we too can fall in love with the Na'vi and ride on the Ekrons in the skies. I wouldn't put anything past James Cameron. The dude reinvented the movie theater going experience. He's stirring up some wild shit in the studio, I know it. Avatar was definitely a success all around the board. Box office, critic reviews, won 3 Academy Awards. But something changed along the way with this film. There was a clear backlash towards this movie. Plenty of fans claiming that it was only received well and made money due to the 3D and visual effects. Nothing more. All style, no substance, if you will. I wanted to finally find out after nearly a decade if this film was all talk or had something to say other than empty your goddamn wallets. To really ensure that the technology of the film would not be a factor in my opinion of Avatar, I saw this movie on my MacBook with some earbuds in. No fancy TV or projector with great speakers. All I wanted was to watch a story being told well. From the minute the film ended, I had my mind made up on the quality of Avatar. It's great. Sorry to those ready for me to tear this movie apart, but it did shock me because I was really expecting a messy story and progression with stupid ass characters making terrible decisions who can't think for themselves. Not to say all of the film worked. This guy played by Stephen Lang was so fucking generic that I was rolling my eyes pretty damn hard from time to time. There were very few parts where the movie's pace did slow down a bit. I can't really say that I was bored, but it definitely felt jarring compared to the rest of the film. Some really stupid cliches like the main character wandering off from the rest of the crew only to get put in a life or death situation. Seriously, why do they do this shit? And some of the side characters felt a bit, what's the word? Goofy?
Who's AWA?
But you know what? I'd be lying if I said this film didn't grab me by the neck and suck me into the world of Pandora just like it did damn near a decade ago to $2.7 billion worth of people. To everyone's point about this movie being made for strictly the visual experience, they're kind of right. The visuals are definitely front and center because my god, this might as well have been a fucking painting because this movie was beautiful. But the visuals were not all the movie had going for it. Avatar wastes zero time getting you into the film. We have some very needed exposition slapping us in the face so that we can get familiarized with Pandora and some of the characters. I won't lie that the exposition doesn't just stop at the start. It's pretty heavy throughout the whole movie, but I am happy to say that it is at the very least well placed and isn't noticeable and stick out like a sore thumb. I was purposely analyzing every frame of this film, but I guarantee if you're just trying to enjoy this film like a normal person, you won't even notice all the expository scenes. We all know that this movie still looks beautiful, but what James Cameron was able to do past the visuals was outstanding. He made Pandora feel real, feel tangible. In a heavily computer generated film like this, there's always a feeling that you get when you know it's not real. Hell, we have films released now that don't even feel authentic, and this was released 10 years ago. But Pandora is so well realized, and I'm glad after all this time the world didn't feel artificial in the slightest. The amount of creativity and layers this movie has is probably what shocked me the most. The endless amount of thought and care that was put into the film. The Na'vi felt like a real tribe with their own customs and traditions, and not for one moment did I believe that any of this was bullshit or half-assed. I actually wanted to learn more about these tall blue alien things and their way of life, and they aren't even fucking real. The progression of the film felt so natural. Most movies have a common 3-act structure, and granted this one does too, but in other films you can kind of tell where each act ends and begins. But here it all flowed within each other seamlessly, that at a certain point I was surprised that I didn't physically write down when the movie shifted acts, which is something I always tend to do. The film sucks you in so much so that I literally wrote down in my notes that I wanted to take more notes, but genuinely did not have much to say because the experience was so hypnotic. I kept absorbing the vast amount of information James Cameron was throwing at me and was taken aback by the story I was watching unfold. The film doesn't ask for your attention, it fucking demands it, and before you know it, the 2.5-hour runtime doesn't feel so long anymore. An aspect I was most invested in was the love story between Jake Sully and Neytiri. It felt so real and raw to the point where this, believe it or not, did not seem fucking weird. But what blockbuster epic is complete without action? This sure as hell has it, and my god, this might have been the main aspect of the film that surprised me the most. Maybe my younger self just didn't remember, but holy hell, these action scenes are downright incredible. The last 40 minutes, I didn't even want to blink because every frame felt felt necessary for me to experience. The adrenaline rush of the last act of the film is comparable to any superhero fight released in recent times. Might get some backlash for saying that, but hell, I don't think it's too far-fetched to say. The action is so intense that at times I had to remind myself that this was a PG-13 rated movie and not an R-rated one. Now, I'm not saying this is Mad Max Fury Road levels of intense, but there were definitely a lot of kill counts and some violence that I thought was on the brink of an R rating. Maybe we just gave less of a fuck in 2009, if so, can we please go back? Revisiting the film, I didn't know what to expect. There was a huge divide on Avatar that made rewatching this film one day really appealing. And I gotta say, if I haven't made it super obvious by now, I'm absolutely a fan. Was this a product of its time? Yes and no. It capitalized and made 3D a staple for future films, but it did it well. It took a concept that many of us were curious about and made a strong film with depth and great characters to seal the deal. It has everything you'd expect a summer blockbuster, well, winter blockbuster to have. Action that'll blow you away. Visuals that'll make you wonder how this is even possible. The love story that might seem out of place but actually develops well over the course of the film. But it also has a story to tell. Is it a simple one? In a way, yeah. Man versus nature, man versus resources, whatever you want to call it, we've seen this type of story told before. But it's not just about what the story is, it's about what it does in the time that it's given. And Avatar, it tells a pretty damn good story.